They say that there was no community in Newfoundland and Labrador that wasn't touched by the First World War, by losing somebody or having somebody fight and have gone overseas. So it just became, it was at the time, and it became this monumental event that touched the lives of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. In order to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of the first day of the Battle of the Somme, the Battle of Beaumont Hamel, which on that day it was a great loss for Newfoundland and Labrador soldiers. So the Newfoundland Regiment went over the top along with 2 other regiments, and they were basically wiped out. Over 800 men went over the top, and only between 80 and 85 showed up the next day. People who come and see this exhibition, they come and they say it's just so moving that they come back again and again and again, and they need to come back again and again because there's so much information. And I've often given tours where people have started crying, or they've related to some family member that's on display here, and they just become overwhelmed with emotions. Like my tours are usually half an hour to 45 minutes, but then sometimes I'm here for an hour and a half just because people are so emotional. I don't want to rush them through any of the experience that they're having. People are just really touched by it. There's a lot of loss, there's a lot of family stories. We really wanted this exhibition not to focus on the battle, like as in how many people went over the top or how many cuts in the barbed wire or any of the battle logistics. So we did this, we went across the province, and we went to 11 places across the island in Labrador and collected stories. And we had an exhibition here at the Rooms called Collecting a Great War, enlisting your help, where we had people come in and tell stories. So we ended up talking to 9,000 people who brought in artifacts, told us stories, brought in images, and we used those stories and that experience of talking to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador in order to develop this exhibition. It's hard to describe what it means because it's just so touching. Like, you always want your work to mean something to people. You always want your job to have ongoing meaning and impact on people. And I'm just so lucky enough to be able to work in a place where my job allows me to have impact on people. So when they come in here and they have these reactions to the exhibition where they're, seeing family members or learning about their history, you just it's very satisfying and very it makes me feel like what I'm doing is something very important to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. It makes me proud to be a Newfoundlander and a Labradorian. What's different about this exhibit that's different than other exhibitions is that it's a real personal story. So you're really getting a feel for what the soldiers experienced, what the people at home experienced, and the overall experience in Newfoundland and Labrador of the First World War. We didn't want to tell people what the story of Newfoundland was. We wanted the people of Newfoundland and Labrador to tell us what they wanted to know about Newfoundland and Labrador. So we did a big public consultation, and that was 2010. So 8 years ago now, and one of the #1 stories that came out of that was Beaumont Hamel and the First World War and Newfoundland's role in the First World War. As a mother, it was very difficult reading the letters. We read a lot of letters from soldiers to their own mothers. We read a lot of letters from mothers to their sons. Men that were serving overseas that had children home. Because as the war dragged on, you could enlist with having a family. At the early part of the war, you weren't allowed to enlist and have a family. It's just heartbreaking letters. So, there's a lot of tears shed by the staff that was working on the exhibit as we were developing it. You know, we're 2 years out from this, and it's still very hard to hear some of the stories from the mothers to the sons. And I don't know, like it's your question about my own children joining the effort and going overseas. It's something luckily I haven't had to think about. You know, and I think that's a blessing that we have in modern day right now, is that as a mother of young children, it hasn't even crossed my mind yet. But we might come to a time when, you know, where a draft could come up. You never know in this day and age. It's a privilege to be able to have worked on this exhibition, and it's a privilege to have been able to be a part of the remembrance of the First World War and Second World War. It's something I try never to take for granted, that I was able to be a part of this project. We've had veterans come through and you know, been really moved and touched by how we were able to tell the story from the individual and not kind of dictate what academically what we believe happened or what happened that's in a textbook, but how we actually took it away from the textbook and took it away from the academia and just talked about the soldier and the soldier's story and the mother's story and the children's story, and kind of have a holistic view of the First World War experience through these stories and memories of people that lived it.